Hello again from our camper van. We had now entered northern Spain. The scenery in northern Spain is much more interesting, as we are driving with the sea on our right-hand side and the remarkable Cantabrian Mountains on our left-hand side. These mountains are an extension of the Pyrenees mountain range, which forms a natural border between Spain and France. Now that we have left France, we have to forget bonjour for hello and instead say hola. Also, we were saying s'il vous plaît for please, and now it is pour favor. And thank you in French was merci, but now in Spanish it is gracias. These are all the fun parts of traveling. Upon entering Spain, we immediately noticed that the people were more friendly and more willing to speak English than the French had been.
Well, getting back to our actual trip, Friday afternoon we set off on a toll road route along the top of Spain, as it would take an hour off our journey. The cost of the toll was €12.50, but it was well worth it. We passed through numerous tunnels and the scenery was magnificent. We travelled to our overnight free camping spot, which was a large parking lot on the edge of the cliff with magnificent views over the Bay of Biscay Sea towards the islets of Gazlu. Aritz. Another camper van pulled in behind us, and it was peaceful and beautiful until some boy racers arrived and we experienced our first encounter with them. They are just young men who come out to have a few drinks, but then get up to mischief. Beryl had read about these boys on the camper Facebook group in the UK. So they knocked on our camper and then hid when I went out to look for them. A little while later, they left after doing a donut in front of both of our campers and throwing a thunder flash out as their final departing gift. Of course, it was a little unsettling, but we chatted with the other campers, a young couple, and decided that we were now back to our peaceful campsite. And I'm glad to say that we had a completely quiet night, with just the sound of an owl hooting in the trees.
On Saturday morning, we woke up to sunshine and we drove half an hour to the parking spot to hike out to the island of San Juan de Gaztelu Heights. Translated from Basque, Gaztelu means castle and Heights means rock. So it just means San Juan of Castle Rock. San Juan de Gaztelu Heights was used to film the island fortress of Dragonstone in season 7 of the Game of Thrones, and this has brought the place a lot of fame. In reality, this islet has a long history of hermitages, convents, monasteries, and churches dating back to the 9th century. The access path down to the bridge, which leads to the island, was reconstructed around 1998, and at times they incorporated blue stones into the cobbled pathway. And they had a saying there saying, "The path is part of the experience of the site. Not only the destination is important, but also how it is reached." Their idea was that the pathway itself should reflect and explain the values of the site. Finally, Dave and I had found in print our own philosophy to life. We always say, life is the journey and not just the destination. Once down the path, we crossed the man-made stone bridge. The bridge transitioned into a narrow path that contained 241 steps and zigzagged its way back and forth to the top of the island. Once at the top of the island, there was a chapel, which has a bell situated along the front of its facade. According to legend, after you have completed the climb, you should ring the bell 3 times and make a wish. Dave and I took 1 hour, 20 minutes to the top of the islet and back. And of course, we each rung the bell 3 times and made a wish. I hope my wish comes true. They had a toilet up at the top, but it was a modern-day version of toilets in ancient castles, where you just pee over the edge. In this case, you had to squat over a drain pipe, and then your wee just went down out over the cliff. We left at 11:30 and travelled over bridges and through tunnels, past green farmlands and dramatic mountains for 3 hours till we reached a campsite on the outskirts of Santillana del Mar. We hopped on our bicycles and cycled in to explore the old town. The cobbled streets here were very rough, and cycling was a teeth-shattering, bone-shaking experience, but still lots of fun. We discovered a campsite right on the edge of the old town that had not shown up in our internet searches. So we decided that after we cycled back to our camper, we would move campsite, as then we could go out for dinner in the old town later. But first, we headed out towards the Altamira Caves, one of the most spectacular and significant Ice Age cave art sites in Europe. The cave itself was discovered in 1868 by a local hunter, but it was just over 10 years before the true magnificence of what was in the cave would come to light. We actually visited the Altamira Museum and Replica, as they no longer allow people to enter the real cave. It was all presented so authentically, and it was very interesting. There is an exquisitely painted bison, which is linked to the carvings of bisons seen in Paris. We then cycled back to Jack and our waiting dogs, moved campsite, and went out to dinner at a local pub, which was largely frequented by men only, although a bit later a couple of families came in. We had 2 different paellas and a bottle of local wine. All in all, a pleasant end to our day.
Sunday morning, we were up bright and early and left for a long trip to Bofonnes de Prix. This is a place on the coastline where the seawater rushes into underground caves and gushes out of blowholes above on the limestone cliffs with great force, producing large fountains of water resembling a natural geyser.
Watch Rambo. No, stand there.
Eh?
Yeah, I got the sound, but not the steam.
Not there?
There was no steam. Stand there. It is. Look at it pushes up through this hole.
The name Bofonnes is derived from the Spanish word bufido, which means the angry snort of an animal, and that is quite a good way to describe the blowholes during the high tide. Violent waves build up enough pressure to create strong wind gusts coming apparently out of nowhere, accompanied by some spray and a loud noise that might scare the hell out of you. During stormy weather, things get even wilder, and the jet sprays can reach more than 20 meters in height. High tide was at 9:30 a.m., but we only managed to get there just after 10 a.m., and there was not much wind, so the sea was fairly calm. But let me tell you, it was still the most remarkable thing to observe after enjoying the various blowholes for a while, and taking a look at the little beach island, which must be gorgeous in summer. We drove to Congas de Onus, but we could not find parking. And we literally just got a photo of the Roman bridge and left again. We went on to Oviedo, a city of water fountains, but no parking for motorhomes. So we decided to head for a small fishing village called Calidro. This fishing village is considered to be one of the most beautiful villages of Spain. We parked in a large parking lot by the harbour and walked around to the village, which is set back against a sheer rock face. There were a couple of restaurants open in the plaza, and people were soaking up the sunshine. It is incredible to see these quaint villages with small little alleyways and homes tucked into every nook and cranny. On our walk back to the harbour, we saw the Pinero River channel, which the river is about 300 meters long. After that, we drove to Foz, where we free camped on the seaside. The wind started picking up as it got dark, and our motorhome was rocking from side to side. I googled the direction of the wind, and then with my compass I repositioned Jack with our nose facing the wind. Voila! We had a peaceful night's sleep.
Monday we had a slow start as I had some work meetings. It is incredible that I can work while we are on the move. At first I was finding it very hectic, but now we have settled into a pattern. I work first thing in the morning, then we tour all day, and in the evenings Dave and I catch up with photographs and our to-do travel video. We got going at 11 a.m. and our first thing was to go grocery shopping. We have noticed here in Spain, and in fact in France as well, that all the supermarkets are closed on Sundays, like the old days in South Africa. And we think it is a great idea. Another thing we have noticed is that there are no trucks on the roads over the weekend. We are not sure if this is a law or not, but this is now our second weekend in the EU, and there are definitely no trucks travelling on the weekends. It was our first grocery shop in Spain, so once again we used Google Translate to help us. Once on the road, we travelled to Mondonedo, a small town with a population of only 4,500 people. Its main attraction is its cathedral, which was spectacular outside and even more so on the inside. Next, we headed for Lugo, which is located on a hill on the banks of the river Minho. It was not a long journey, and because it was raining, we decided to choose a slower, older route, where the road goes up and down and around the mountains instead of over bridges and through tunnels. It was a lovely drive, and it gave us a perspective of how much all these bridges, or as they call them, viaducts and tunnels, have shortened the travel time. We stopped in Lugo to see its city wall, which was built between the 3rd and 4th centuries AD. This Roman stone construction has managed to survive the passage of the centuries and continues to be the city's most distinctive architectural feature, marking the boundary between the historic quarter and the newer area of urban expansion. The uniqueness of this ancient wall and its good condition means it is the only Roman wall declared a World Heritage Site. We walked on top of the wall and marveled at its thickness. The weather today has been really bad with constant rain, so we donned our full rain suits for our walk around Lugo, and saw that there is no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing, because we were dry and warm in our correct clothing. We then drove a little out of Lugo to a smaller village where the local council provide a motorhome parking lot completely free, including full electricity. Quite amazing.
Tuesday, we left at around 9 a.m. and drove to Place de Rey, where we stopped to look at a cemetery. They are all in the same style as the ones we saw in New Orleans, with raised crypts. We then headed on small back roads to the Pembrey Castle. We arrived at the castle at 11 a.m. and Beryl had a work meeting for just over an hour. We noticed a little car sitting alongside us, and when we finally got out the motorhome an hour later, the man in the car hopped out. He obviously worked at the reception of the castle, but sat in his car with his heater on as it was an icy 4 degrees today. We paid him €6 and could then explore the castle. It is a good example of medieval architecture and was built around 1375. It was really icy and there were lots of treacherous steps up, so I had to carry Rambo, although Jojo managed all on her own. On the way down, I actually slipped and hurt my wrist and lower back, but hey, I'm fine. We then headed for Santiago de Compostela and found a parking in the university grounds, which was a 20-minute walk from the cathedral. We had time for a quick cup of tea, and Beryl started to boil the kettle, only to discover that we had run out of gas. My botch up, as I had forgotten to refill our gas cylinders before we left. Beryl quickly Googled and found a gas supplier about 5 kilometers away, and we got there just in time for Bea to have her next scheduled work meeting at 3 p.m., while I had to buy a EU gas bottle and connections, but at least we could sort out our problem. Then back to the university to find parking, and we did the walk to the cathedral just in time to go on the rooftop tour at 5 p.m. Wow, what a fantastic experience. We were led right up to the top of the bell towers and onto the roof of the cathedral itself, from where we had a bird's eye view of the whole town. Unfortunately, the tour was in Spanish. They don't do English ones. But the views were spectacular. The Baphoerium is the most unique element of the cathedral. It is a giant censer that carries around 40 kgs of incense, and it swings across the cathedral. Its original purpose was to eliminate the odors that the pilgrims brought in. The cathedral is the reputed burial place of St. James the Great One, of the Apostle Jesus Christ. The tour ended at 6 p.m. and we hoofed it back to our motorhome and drove 20 minutes south to our selected campsite, only to find that it was not open. So we quickly did a search on the app Park 4 Night and found another site 7 minutes away. The end of a busy day, and we really enjoyed our drink to celebrate yet another successful, albeit with mishaps, day in Jack. The next day we would enter Portugal. Please like and subscribe and hit the bell icon for notification of our next video.